Hi friends, it's Kay the Moran and welcome back to the Let's Get Candid podcast. How's everybody doing today? Happy Thursday, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. As always, so excited to be back on the mic with you guys. If you hear my dog in the background, we are working from home today and he is a little antsy because the mailman just drove by. But it's such a beautiful day in Miami, and honestly, I said this recently, but I'm just so happy to be back home. I'm actually going to Dallas this weekend and New York City next weekend, but it just, whenever I come home from a trip or I'm gonna be leaving soon, I feel a deeper appreciation for this city and all that there is to do here, and that I get to represent such a vibrant and multicultural place, because having lived in somewhere that is not like that, I just know now that this is where I'm meant to be in the sunshine, and it's so beautiful here, and I'm just in a good mood. This week has been quite an adventure, let me just tell you. I am about 2 weeks into launching my own law firm, doing consultations and calls and meetings left and right. People are coming to me from places I did not expect. People are finding me and want to know what I'm up to, how I got into it. They're inspired by me, and it's pinch me. Is this really happening? Holy crap, because I still feel sometimes this is still a pipe dream, but it's not. I know that this is what I'm meant to be doing. My intuition is telling me that this is what it is, and you can't rationalize intuition. If you can, it's not intuition. And I know that this is right, so it feels really good to feel rewarded for it when people come to me and want to know more about what I'm doing and how they can be a part of it and are inspired. And there's so many things I want to share and so many ways for me to share, and there's just so much I want to do because I have so much to give. And I need to remember that it's okay to slow down and take my time and do things in their own timing and when they really do feel right and when the opportunities present themselves. But I have a running list of ideas, so I'm not going anywhere. But yeah, this week has been really good. So I think we'll just jump right into my suck and sweet of the week then. My suck of the week is that, there's been some interesting developments in my love life and my friendship life. Relationships have shifted, a lot has changed, but it's all for the best. And it sucks sometimes when you lose a friend that you really cared about, or the friendship that you thought you had isn't what you thought it was. Someone else wanted something different from you, and that has been happening a little bit. And I'm grateful for my true friendships that have been there for me along the way, that I have gone to when I needed advice or guidance in how to handle certain situations, and reminded me that these are my true people and that I can go to them for anything and anything at any time, and they are always there for me no matter what. And that's a small handful of people, but it feels really good to know that those are my people. And it just sucks that they're not always in my city, because I've traveled to go to school, and I travel a lot, so I meet a lot of people, and it's really cool to have a lot of friends in a lot of different places and build true friendships like that we can talk no matter the time zone, no matter what's going on in our lives, career-wise, relationship-wise, whatever. We are solid, and that's my soulmate friendship. But it sucks that they sometimes don't live in my city, because I can't just go over there when I need a hug, or they can't come to me when they had a long day at work and want to get drinks. So that's been quite an adjustment, but I love that I get to work remotely and visit them hopefully soon. That's why I'm going to Dallas. I'm visiting a couple people while I'm in Dallas, but I'm going on a girls' trip with my best friend and mentor from law school. She lives in a different city, but we do an annual girls' trip every year. Last year, we recorded a podcast episode on our girls' trip, Yasmin, where we talk all about big law and, her experience in law school. So go check that out. I'll link it below. But this year we decided to do a city that neither of us have ever been to before. So we were between Dallas and Charleston, and we chose Dallas. So it'll be good to see her and reconnect. And she's one of my people now. Like, I don't know if I want bridesmaids, but like if I were to have bridesmaids, she would be one of my bridesmaids. And then I'm going to New York City with my family and seeing some friends while I'm there as well that I've met on social media. Social media is such a great place to meet people. That's actually how I met one of my best friends who lives in Chicago. And then we happened to be on our bar trip together. So that's really how we got connected. But social media has built our relationship foundation. And, you know, some of my best friends are from social media. So that's really cool. But it sucks that they don't live in my city. So I guess my suck of the week is just that, you know, as I've evolved and grown, my friendships have evolved and changed. And it's a little hard to navigate sometimes because we're all just figuring it out. But it's nice to know that you have your people when you need them, when things like this happen. And, you know, it's been an emotional roller coaster involving that in addition to the career and, you know, the imposter syndrome type of moments about going on an untraditional path. But it's part of life, and honestly I'm really grateful for it because I've come a really long way, and I'm really proud of myself with everything that has happened and how I've handled it. Ultimately, I may not have had some of my finest moments, but I've learned from them, and you know, everything really does happen for a reason, and the people that are meant to be in your life will be. And if they're not meant to be in your life and they don't like you because of one small moment, then those aren't your people. And my sweet of the week is just that in the theme of sharing so much and having so many ideas, the last few weeks I've had a couple of calls with pre-law students and 1Ls that are considering law school or in law school and love what I'm doing and are inspired by what I'm doing and want to go on this career path to be a lawyer potentially in the creator economy, in the NIL space, in the sports space, in the entertainment space. And they see what I'm doing. They think it's really cool and want to learn more about my story to see how I could help them and support them and provide guidance. And it just is really freaking cool that I get to be that, because I remember when I was in their shoes and was doing the networking and reaching out to people to get advice and help in figuring out, is law school right for me? What law school, what programs should I look for? You know, how do I get the internships that I want because I think I want to do X? You know, it's really cool. And I still have those calls today with lawyers and business people on, I want to start offering this service in my business. How can I do that? Or how do I set up this bank account or this business? Like, what are the things that I need to have in order to do it properly? How did you get to where you are today? Like, I still reach out to people and network and gain advice and mentorship. But it's really cool now that I'm the one providing that mentorship to the next generation of potential lawyers and future lawyers. And it is really freaking cool. And, you know, my professor the other day, I told you guys last week, was like, I am so damn proud of everything that you've accomplished and how far you've come. Like, it is so inspiring, and like, it's just incredible to watch. I have to reach out to another professor that has said similar things to me, and it's really nice to go back to my school and have people in my corner, because while I was there, it was really hard to feel like I did, but having these two professors in particular just means the absolute world to me, that they are my champions and have seen me really come this far. And I love being that for the next generation. And, you know, it's when I had a 3L yesterday. She's a 3L now. I went to college with her. When we first talked, she was a senior in college looking to apply to law school. Now she's about to graduate in 2-3 months. Like, it's been 3 years. So much has changed. And she was like, you know what? Like, the advice that you gave me really prepared me and set me up, like, in such a good place. Like, I am so grateful for the advice you gave me. Like, truly, like, keep doing what you're doing. I'm so happy other people are coming to you, because no one talks about law school the way that you do. And you really gave me insight that nobody else does. And that was so important and so helpful. So thank you. Like, you've really, it changed my life. And I was like, holy crap. And so, like, my sweet of the week is just keep putting out what you're passionate about, your energy, what you are inspired to do, your calling. If you feel called to do something, do it, because it comes back tenfold. And my sweet of the week is just getting messages like that and getting calls or DMs from people that want to have calls with me or go to lunches. And it's so it feels so freaking good. And I'm just in such a high because of it. I am honestly like, that outweighs everything that's been going wrong in my life. Not that it's been going wrong, but you know what I mean. But anyway, speaking of having a calling and, doing what you're doing and leaving a job because it's not right for you, because you know that you have a passion for it, even if you know it's going to be hard, and doing it anyway because it's what you will know you are meant to be doing. This week's episode with Hani is absolutely incredible. She started her own design business. She designs Indian wedding dresses and Indian clothing. It is so freaking cool. We talk all about that and how she grew her business and how, it kind of all came together. And she has experience in social media. We actually know each other through Natalie, who you guys know I worked at Rella with her. She's the founder of Rella. Hani used to work with Natalie prior to Rella. And it's just cool to see how our networks collide, and we're doing such different things, but at the foundation, it's all about passion and what you feel called to do. And that's what this podcast is for. I want people to hear so many different perspectives and opportunities and insights, and help that guide you to figuring out what your calling is and pursuing it and giving you the tools to do it. That is my goal. That's why it's Let's Get Candid. We're getting candid on anything and everything that it takes to be the best version of yourself and show up the way that you want to. And, that was such a great reminder too for the beginning of 2023. And just, I had to share that with all of you. So if you like this episode, please leave a rating and a review. Please subscribe to the show, share with a friend, tag us as you're listening and screenshot it. And go shout out Hani, go check out Rella. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I need coffee. Go check out Rella. Go check out Hani. I'll link everything in the show notes as always. And thank you guys so much for listening. It really does mean the absolute world to me. And I will talk to you guys next week. Meet Hani. Hani, what's something that people don't know about you just from following you?
One of the things I guess people don't know about me is I'm actually not an extrovert. I think when you see me on social and just the nature of my job, it's kind of required that you are an extrovert to network, to be in social media and PR, especially, and go to events and stuff. But every single day, I need at least like 2 to 3 hours just by myself without talking to anyone, just me in my room or doing whatever. And I think people really don't realize that. Especially even I have friends in my life that sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, but you can do things back to back. You're okay. You do this all the time." And I'm like, I would like not.
Yeah, no, it's funny, I was talking about this with somebody else too, but I'm the same way. I used to say I'm an extrovert, or like an ambivert,
Yeah.
but I honestly just think I'm an extroverted introvert
Yeah.
because I'm the same way. I need to so I'm the type of person that I need to my battery is at 100. I need it to get to 0. Like I need to burn out, not
Hmm.
fully, but like I need to lose all my battery, and then I need to be alone for a little while to recharge, to get
Yeah.
back to 100. But then once I hit 100, I need to expel it because
Yeah.
then I'm bouncing off the walls with energy. So
Yeah.
I'm the same way. And I think, yeah, like people love to think that you're confident or you're extroverted or you're this to be on social media. And in reality, it's not, because we're still doing it from the comfort of our own home. And like, it's the same thing. And that's part of why I started the podcast and I called it Let's Get Candid. It's like, this is a conversation you and I would be having on FaceTime, but I happen to
Yeah.
just be recording it to share it with the world. And it's not taking away, or it's not like I'm not putting on a persona. This is just who
Yeah.
I am. And that's how I approach social media. Not everyone does that, but that, like, I hop on stories and who I am on stories, who I am offline. And
Yeah.
not everyone does that, but I just, at least for me, it's not like it's like I'm doing anything extra. I'm not trying to be extroverted. I am a social person. I like meeting people. I love networking. I love talking to people. I love learning. But I hit my breaking point too, and I'm like, okay, time to like be back in a hermit, go back to my cave and like
Yeah.
decompress for the weekend, and then I'm ready to do it again on Monday. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really big misconception, but I think most people that are on social media actually aren't extroverted.
Yeah, I will say 90% of the friends I've made on social media in real life were very similar that like there are some days where you're probably just not having it like or you have an event to go to and you kind of just have to like it is a part of your job, right? Like people don't realize that like sometimes going to these things or being in social settings is a part of the job description. And so it's just like any other job if you're not feeling great or like are in some kind of mood, you kind of have to like get that at bay, go do your job, come back and decompress. It's the same thing. So I don't know, like people always just be like talking about how it's so easy for me and it's like it's part of what I have to do on a daily basis. It's just a skill. Um
Yeah. I think
yeah.
that's a good way to put it. It's a skill. It's a
Yeah.
skill that we have that we've owned, and you can learn that. Like it's
Yeah.
not for, at least for me, I don't know if it's a learned skill for you, but for me it was inherent. It was built into me, but some
Yeah.
people learn that skill. And you just have to use it to your advantage and know when to turn it off and when to turn it on. And yeah, like you just, it's a tool in your toolbox, but and then
Right.
you also need to have the tools to help you decompress and help you, come back into yourself. And you know some people journal, some people meditate, some people listen to podcasts, some people like to go for walks. Like you have your down, your like
Yeah.
ways to help you come down, but then
Wind down. Yeah.
to wind down. But when, all right, I need to be on, like this is what I got to do. Like you put on makeup, you do your hair, you put on a good outfit, like put on like some really good music, and you're dancing around while you're getting ready, and like, all right, now I'm ready to go to this event. And then you come home, it's like, all right, wash it all off and ready to go to bed, and then do it again the
Yeah.
next day. And no, that's a good one, I think. And I think it's a really big misconception. So I'm glad we talked about that. But for people who don't know who you are, like can you talk a little bit about what you do now and how you got there?
Yeah, so a little like quick summary. I live in Baltimore, or I used to live in Baltimore. I'm in Maryland now. And I have been here for however many, I would say like 20, 25 years. I went to school here, and during school, I initially wanted to be a doctor, and I just didn't like I got to a point where I was taking organic chemistry and it really didn't work. Like
Everybody
it
that I
wasn't.
talk to hates Orgo. It's not like it's just like a mutual, like everyone just hates that class.
I know people like the people that love it are not on like clearly I was doing that. Like there's nothing that I could have done there. I was studying so hard. I just couldn't visualize what I was supposed to visualize at that point. So I knew that it wasn't for me at that point, and I switched to finance, like, honestly, just on a whim, like, business and finance, it wasn't a plan, it was just kinda like, "Uh-oh, I don't know what I wanna do, and we're just gonna pivot." I was lucky, I took a ton of APs in high school and stuff, and so switching, like, drastically like that was not a big deal, or else I would have probably graduated later, but I did that, and so while I was applying to jobs my senior year, I had gone to India, and so when I was in India, I, found, like, there was a huge bridal clothing market of, like, my friends getting married and all of that here, and nobody had access to clothes, so I decided to start my own thing while I was a senior in college, and so I started my fashion company then called Denise Collections, and we're 5 years in, and I do, like, custom bridal clothing for South Asian weddings. So that's how I started that. I still and we talked about this earlier, but I still, like, wanted to go into finance just to, like, have that experience and kind of I mean, like, I'd always once I was in that major, I wanted to be in banking and stuff, so I still went out and got that corporate job, however, it just was not great, the culture's not the best, being a woman of color, it just, like, wasn't fun at all, so I quit my job probably a year out from that, I took, like, a 6-month gap, worked on my business, and then in 2020, when the pandemic was about to hit, I got my next full-time venture capital job, and that was with it was like a marketing hybrid position, and so they created it for me, and that was a lot nicer in theory, but the culture ended up being pretty similar. It wasn't as creative as they told me it was gonna be, and just a bunch
Classic.
of stuff. Yeah, and at that point, I started also working with Natalie, so it was I was, like, getting my creative outlet there. My wedding, like, clothing company was completely shut down because of COVID, so it was all just, like, digital marketing at that point, and then Natalie was very, like, supportive of getting my own freelance clients and all of that too. So, I did that, and eventually my clothing company started again because things were working again in the world, and now I, like, had 5 things on my plate that I couldn't juggle, and I, like, looked at that and talked to my parents, and we together came about the decision that, like, financially, it was okay for me to leave my full-time job because all the other freelance income was pretty much a lot more than what I was making at my job, and my job environment just sucked. So, I got out of my job last year in February thinking, "I'm gonna go freelance full-time." Still working with Natalie at that point, and she also was like, "Yes, this is a good decision." And then, um, as soon as I quit my job, I had, like, my freelance clients tell their friends, tell people they knew in their network, and all of a sudden, like, I had this influx of clients come in. I did not plan on starting an agency at all. It was supposed to be just freelance, but then when I had the amount of work that came in within the first month, I was like, "Oh no, I need to like hire someone, which means I need to like make this a full legit like agency." And so that's like really when I did that. It's really funny because I talk about how my first business was very like, here's the name, here's the brand, here's all of that. And then we launched with my agency now. It really was backwards. Like I had the work and then I had to come up with the branding, come up with all of that. Our website didn't even launch till this January. Like it was just kind of doing it on the fly.
That's so cool. And it's so for people who don't know who we're talking about, Natalie Barbu, who I've had on the podcast before, she is one of my best friends and she's also literally the person behind me starting my own podcast and who pushed me to do it. And I love hearing, I love talking to other people who've had that same experience with her. She is someone who is truly like, she's really good at picking up on what you're good at and helping encourage you to pursue it. So that's so
Yeah.
cool that she was the one that also was like, you have a gift, like you need to do something about it. Also, good to know. I mean, I knew this from her, but good to know that you do South Asian wedding clothes because one of my best friends, actually, one of my best friends from college, he just went to his girlfriend's family wedding in Texas. And he was like, it's 1,000 people wedding. And I was like, what? And I was like, I know that
Yeah.
I know that they're big, but like, I just hadn't fathomed like how big. And I also apparently that's like not that big. Um, but like
Yeah.
she made the clothes, like she like helped, she went to India and like created like the outfits for them, like for like her family. And I was like, I just can't wait to go to one and like be around how like the clothes are so beautiful. And like I just he showed me a little bit of the design process that she would send him. And it was just it was I don't know, I love Alta. So like and he was like, "Don't worry, you'll be at my wedding." I was like, "I freaking better be at your wedding." Like it's 1,000 people. Like I'm pretty sure I fit into those like 1,000 people
Yeah.
just how big it is. But I can't wait to like wear like the beautiful outfits and like just be surrounded by it. It's so pretty. But so good to know. But for future.
Yeah.
But yeah, so how do you go about starting a business like that? Especially like there's so many people who want to start their own business now, especially clothing. And it's really hard just, ask like, how do I get a manufacturer? Like, what were the steps of starting? And of course you were in India is a little different because like, it's a different type of clothing business for sure.
Yeah.
But how do you go about starting a business like that?
I mean, I was 21 at the time. I really, like, honestly did not know what I was doing because like, quite frankly, I hadn't people always ask if I went to fashion school or something. I didn't. Like, I didn't have a fashion degree. I knew what I knew about making clothes from, like, the actual design part, but, like, putting a garment together, like, that's not my strong suit, and I don't like, that is not even what I do, right? I don't manufacture it, so that's a huge misconception that people have when they come to me. They're like, "You're making all the clothes, you're doing the pa," and I'm like, "No, no, no, I sketch it and it gets sent off." And so finding the manufacturing teams was really like we truly found them through Instagram and Facebook, and that is so scary to say out loud because we, had been luckily, we didn't lose a ton of money doing that because it was from, like, we were in India, we came up with the idea, and then we came back home, and so when I came back here is when I, like, really formulated it and decided on doing it, but we were overseas, so we like interviewed people through Zoom and just found them through Instagram and Facebook and liked their work. And that's worked great for us, but it's worked really badly for other people. I know like you can be tricked, you can like wire money to like someone else. So I'm lucky that it worked out in our favor. And then about a year later, I actually went and met them in person. So we've had the same team for 5 years. We've kept the same quality in manufacturing. Again, really lucky because that doesn't happen very often, especially through a global pandemic. Um, but it was just doing my research online and using like social media and um, websites and all of that stuff to find these people and just kind of seeing who I think hiring as a whole is like seeing who you can mesh well with. Like, sure, they need a skill set, and in this case, they really do. But I think coming back to just hiring people for your team, it's like really important to see how they communicate and fit well with your team. And I think we had that edge of like interviewing people pretty in a pretty detailed manner and then sending some of our family in India to go visit them at that point. And we were able to see that they like wanted to work with us. They wanted to really go above and beyond and all of those skills that you kind of look for just in a team member, they had that. So that's also why I think it worked out well.
And it's good too that you had your family that you could ask them, like, can you go vet these people? Can you go check out the factory? Can you like make sure like they're actually who they say they are and they can do what they're telling us that they could do. That's really
Yeah.
important too. But yeah, I want to ask you about, building out your businesses, but how did you start getting clients? Like, was it quick when you first started this? Like, you started in college, it's been 5 years now. Was it like, all right, I'm putting this out in the world and I'm doing this and like the clients came, or like, how did it really come about for you to create this as a business? Because you were in college and you still
Yeah.
went to go work in corporate America. So how did that really like happen?
So it was, I will say, like one of the best marketing tools, even though I have an agency, like is word of mouth. Like word of mouth
Yeah.
gives you the kinds of clients that you are definitely looking for and like is more reliable than probably any other form of marketing. Like it's the most powerful one. So I would say the first year or two of Anise Collections, we didn't have social really. It was just the website and it was going to trade shows, going to expos, and like really showing people what we have. And that was the best way to do it. I think I remember my first bride was one of our family friends, and then it like kind of went off of that. So after my first wedding, it was just about showing people what I could do and how I did it, and then them telling other people. And that's really how we got off the ground was really showing people our product in person. And then I also went and like networked a ton. I became like a bridal assistant on weekends. So with my corporate job with this business, I worked with like a really high-end wedding planner in this area. And so I basically worked all these weddings over the weekends. And I'm like the youngest, well, not anymore, but I was the youngest person in the wedding market. And so all the vendors knew me and like would take me under their wing and treat me like family. And it was really nice. And they would then refer me to their friends, their family, their clients. And that's really how the momentum got built up. And I would say the similar thing happened with my agency too. It was like, it truly was word of mouth. It wasn't, I didn't do much else besides networking and word of mouth.
And that's the power of influencers. Like people don't realize it. It's not about links. It's not about, sales conversions. Like that's what people now it's become that. But at the beginning, it was everyone has influence. You influence your friends, you influence your family, even on a small scale. Like, your friends in middle school would ask you, like, oh, where did you get that shirt? Where did you get those shoes? Like you're influencing them. And that is what word of mouth is. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up too, that it will always be the number one form of marketing. And it's really it's a skill. At the end of the day, it's still a skill that you have, like building out that network and having them be influencers for you. And I think with any business, when you are the entrepreneur, you are the founder of the business, and you know you can't expect like people care about ROIs and numbers and margins. And it's like, you have to do it because you love it. At the end of the day, you
Yeah.
have to genuinely love it and be willing to take those risks that it doesn't work out. But you know, the word of mouth is so important because those are the people that genuinely love and support you. And they tend to be your family and your friends and then their network and then that person's network. And that's why LinkedIn is so important too. Like I talk about that a lot on the podcast. Like LinkedIn is so essential. And I'm sure for like creatives nowadays on LinkedIn too, but in the
Yeah.
business world, you were in finance, like your network, you connect with one person, then you have access to their network. And then you can go and look through their network and meet one person there. And then you have access to that person. And it grows and grows and grows from there. And you never know, 5 years from now, you're looking for a new job and you're like, oh, that one person used to work at this company. That company has a position that I might be interested in. Let me reach out. Hey, it's been a few years. Hope you're doing well. Saw your kids had a birthday or you went on a trip. Like, the pictures look beautiful. Like, are you available sometime to chat? I know you've left this company, but I'm interested in this position. Would love to chat with you. Or do you know anyone that's still there that I can talk to? And they're going to want to reach out to you. So
Yeah.
it's all about word of mouth. It's all about your network. So I'm really like, as someone who is really like, I love networking, connecting with people and helping people do that. So I'm glad we like touched on that because it's so underrated how important that really is.
Yeah, and I make it a point now that I have a full team is that like it is really important for them to network on their own too. Like I can't just be the one. I know I'm the founder, but besides that, like for them, it like even just for their personal use, like you have to do it. So I'm pretty big on like even today this week, my employee is at Inbound in Boston, the HubSpot conference. So like I was like, you have to go. You're in Boston. You should go. Like here's the ticket from our company, but go network, go talk about what you're doing. Like I make it a point for my employees to do it too because it is a skill. Again, it's a skill you have to practice if you're not good at it. But I also always say like reach out to that person that you think is really cool on Instagram, on LinkedIn, whatever. Like reach out to them. The worst that's going to happen is either they're not going to respond or they're going to say no. But like just reach out. You never know what's going to happen if you do reach out and they do want to talk to you. So, yeah.
No, and it's what we were talking about with Natalie. Like
Yeah.
she has always pushed us to be like, you are really good at this. You should do something with it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to have the podcast that I do without the network that I have. And it's all just not being afraid to like, oh, I like what you're doing. Like, let's get coffee sometime or let's
Yeah.
hop on Zoom because now we can do that. And it's special that, she pushed her employees, you and I being former employees, or well, I'm still an employee, but and then you do that, you pass it forward and do that with your employees because at the end of the day, they're networking and it's helping them, but it's also helping you. So,
Yeah.
and it's hard to not see them as competition sometimes when but if you are a good founder, you are a good team builder, you recognize that your employees have strengths that are your weaknesses and you learn how to use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
And the same way, like their weaknesses are your strengths. So they
Yeah.
complement, you guys complement each other. And that's the key to building a good team. So actually great transition. So when you started your agency or well, talk about, you said like you did it all backwards. Like you were freelancing, you got all these clients. You're like, okay, guess I need to build a team, need to
Yeah.
build an actual agency now. What was that like? What were the first people you hired? Have you had to fire anyone? Like, what has it really been like building a team? And what do you look for when you're building a team for something, especially like a creative agency like this?
Yeah, it was really like besides the panic that ensued as soon as I realized it, I had that for about a week. And then I think my first move was like the timing of it all really was key, I would say. So as soon as I decided I need to hire someone, like I've and this is again coming back to the whole networking thing, I've never had to look outside my network to hire people. Because either friends have told people about my company and their cousin, their little sister's friend, whoever is looking for a job and they've sent me a resume. So when I needed to hire 2 weeks prior to that, my friend that I was in her wedding, like texted me and was like, hey, my cousin is graduating from Michigan in May and she doesn't have a job lined up yet. She's looking for a position in marketing. do you have anything? And she was referring to my clothing company at that point, and I was like, no, I don't have anything, but I'll keep my eye out. And then literally 2 weeks later, I reached out to her and was like, "Hey, actually, I do have something. I need someone for my agency." Like, and so that's how my first hire happened. That was really like a good stepping point. But I think with your first hire, a lot of people go through this realization of like, you don't have time sometimes to think about what you actually want and how the business is going to grow. And it's okay that as the business grows, like your trajectory will change because you don't know going into it. Like even coming up with a job description, I had a job description for her when she started, but literally 2 months later we grew a lot and then her job description changed.
Yeah, that's how my job at Rella and what I do now are not the
Yeah.
same thing. And
Yeah.
and that happens all the time. And like you have to be willing to be flexible. They have to be willing to be flexible and work with you, especially when you're starting up and you're just building the core, like first two,
Yeah.
three, five, even up to I think the first 10 people. It's
10.
like that.
Yeah.
Just from experience seeing Natalie build up Rella. And like you saw when she was building up We Bloom, which was the precursor to Rella, and you're doing it now on your own. And I think it's really cool too, like how it was your friend's sister, like, and it's like, I don't have anything right now, but oh wait, actually I do. Like
Yeah,
you
just kidding.
and
I do.
and you just never know. Like and it's good to have that network because you just never know.
Yeah, so with that, like, that was how my first hire happened, and then in July, I hired 3 more people, and it was a similar situation of, like, as our social media went live or as I talked about it in more networking groups, I had, like, a bunch of resumes, and we had booked so many clients again where I was like, "Uh-oh, we need more people." So I just went through my inbox, scheduled interviews, and then hired people from there. I have had to fire someone before, and that was really, really tough for me. It was earlier this year, and again, it was a friend of my first full-time employee, and so that was tough, but luckily, like, it was like she was mature enough to separate that relationship, which I was worried about, but she was really good about that, so but it was tough because I feel like I waited longer than I should have to do it, just because I kept wanting to give this person a chance, and they just weren't like, part of it was that they ghosted me and my team for, like, 6 weeks, and we hadn't heard from them, including, like, my clients and stuff, and at that point, it was like, I should have taken action maybe 3 weeks into it or even 2, like, 2 weeks tops, but it was just like, I don't know, like, I'm a people person at the end of the day too, and I just didn't wanna, like, I don't know, come off any sort of way, so I'm learning how to be, I think, a better, and more strict leader without being a bad boss, if that makes sense. Because I've been in like employee relationships where it's been like not great. So I'm trying not to do that. But at the same time, I do think there's boundaries and like rules that you like you're in a workplace. You do have to follow certain things like respond to your clients, like really basic things that don't hurt my company. Because at the end of the day, what I had to realize in that moment was that I'm still paying him and I'm losing money because he's not doing his job. This isn't a favor that he's doing to
Yeah.
me. It's a business and that's like I'm like being better about that now that I have full-time employees where we have like an employee handbook and like all of the corporate things that the workplace teaches you. And I think that that structure is really essential when you do come into a startup environment so that lines aren't blurred and like people can't take loopholes here and there.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part of startups is that
Yeah.
because it's your friends and family and your network at first, it's hard to blur the like that line is blurred at to some level it is like,
Yeah.
you know, they're your friends and like with your startup, you want them to and you have one with any job. You have to enjoy the people you work with because they're the people you are with day in and day out and like you want to like the people you work with. You really do. And if
Yeah.
you don't, then that's a problem. But it's hard when it's also a business and you have to choose business over friendship. But it's good that your friend was able to recognize like this isn't personal, it's business. And sometimes business is personal because they are your friends, but like you have to know when to like, and it's hard. Like me and Natalie, like we're really close, but we're also like business, we're colleagues. She's my boss.
Yeah.
Like And we have to know when to like, all right, we're friend hat. Okay, that's off. Now it's business. Like it's hard. And it's even harder when you are transitioning now. Like how many people do you have on your team? Like you're going into the more corporate world now, you have employee handbook. It's a little different.
Yeah, I have 3 W-2 and then 3 contractor. I just recently, like, that was a huge stepping stone, was, like, doing the W-2 process, and I think I did it, like, maybe 2 months before Natalie, like, went into it, so we talked through it, and she was just like, "Oh my god, if you hadn't done this before I did, I don't know what." Like, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's nice that, like, again, we had that boss employee relationship when I worked with her. We had the friend relationship, but now coming out of it, we have like a really good, like, both like friend and like business colleague, like
Yeah.
relationship where I can call her when I'm having trouble with something work wise. And it's like really great. And so that's part of what I wanted to keep with my employees too, is like, I'm here for you. I will be your biggest cheerleader. I will like be here for you. And I want to be your friend, but that comes with the boundary of like the workplace and getting work done and like treating my company the way it should be treating our clients that way. And with our agency too, it's like I've built the agency very, I want to say personally, like all of my clients I have a pretty personal relationship with, along with like work, like I've been to their kids' birthday parties and like, like it is about relationship building at the end of the day. I feel like marketing and PR is about that. And how do you teach that to your employees? That like the best way to teach it is to be an example and foster that environment within the agency. Um, and so those are also the kind of people I look for and make sure is like tangible skills can be taught. Like, for example, designing on Canva can be a skill that you can teach. But if someone doesn't know how to have a conversation with a client or how to build a relationship with a client or how to even like if you're awkward in those settings, it's like I have to think about I can't put you on a client call. I can't put you front facing and I have to adjust your role that way. So that is also like a big part of my hiring process is looking at that piece.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And it's hard to learn. Like you have to learn it the hard way, I think. And it's
Yeah.
hard to when you realize that it's like, oh, like I have to approach it from this angle. And yeah, it's like same thing. Natalie and I, like we have that colleague mentality, we have that friendship mentality. And you know, I'm starting my own thing, and she's been a great help for me because she's done it before. And it's really cool to see that you guys have that now. You help each other out. And and that's why, like, they say you never burn bridges because you never really
No.
know what's gonna happen, where it's gonna lead you. I mean, there's times where you have to like just cut them loose,
Yeah.
like you have to say goodbye, and that's with friendship, with personal, with business, whatever. But if you can salvage it to some degree, like you never really know where that person, and in 10 years, bygones could be bygones, and they might be doing something that you want to be doing, and they're the perfect person, and you don't want to be like, damn, I wish I could reach out to them. So
Yeah.
that's a good for that's anything, not just even being an entrepreneur. That's in being an employee at a big company. That's anything because it's all
Yeah.
about relationships, and it's 6 degrees of separation. Everybody knows everybody, especially you and I, and now that we are in minority communities, it's even smaller. Or for me in law, for you in a business background, Natalie in engineering, like it just everyone knows everyone. You just have to be very, very careful, and building those relationships is so key. But you primarily focus on, or I think only focus on South Asian businesses. So was that a conscious decision? Would you ever expand into that, or that's what you're like, that's what's going to make you guys different?
So we are, as of today and as of me knowing this, we are the only agency that specializes in South Asian owned and founded businesses like in the US. And that was very intentional. It came from the fact that I do have a founding background of another company. And when I looked around and realized like if I was outsourcing like my marketing, there is a very personal touch of like my story, my background, all of that like someone who doesn't come from that background would have it's not that they wouldn't be able to understand, but they would have a very tough time understanding that, bridging that with the marketing. And it's like very nuanced because although we have that background, it's also like we are marketing to the mainstream audience. Some of my clients' products are like candles. so everyone can buy them, but their story is very rooted in their culture. And it's something that a lot of agencies wouldn't be able to understand. Like that story part is not what they would be able to do. So it was very intentional to do it this way, and to focus on one niche. I initially thought that it was too small of a population or like too small of a niche to focus on. But honestly, very quickly, I realized that that assumption was very wrong. There's like new South Asian brands popping up every single day. Um, and like we do make a lot of the population here, and globe, like, and like in North America as a whole. Um, so that's been nice. But I think we also like get opportunities that are outside that, mainly women of color businesses. And so I do like keeping it to that. That's not to say if I got like an outside opportunity that I felt like was really exciting and could contribute to our growth, we wouldn't visit it. Cause again, we do get outside opportunities, but I think it has to be the right fit. And I've always, again, built it on the basis of a relationship. Like I need to feel like the founder and I align on values. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to like the ethics part of building this agency is that like we truly believe in the products or services that we're helping our clients market. I don't want to ever get to a point where I'm like working with a product or service that I really don't feel passionately about, because how do you market that then? Like how do you think about it as a consumer? You kind of have to fake it, and that's not fun. So yeah.
No, that makes total sense. That was why I was curious, like, would it be too small? And like, yeah, you zoom out and you're like, no, like there's so many.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if like, that was like still like, your thought process on it. So you answered it for me, but I'm just curious just because I feel like it's important. The values for you, that is crucial. And that is part of why I wanted so badly to move home after law school. Was I recognized how important that really is to me. Growing up, I was
Yeah.
like, everyone's Hispanic here, like it's not special. And then I left it because I didn't feel special. I was like, I don't have what all these other girls have. I'm not, but maybe if I go somewhere where I'm the big fish in a small pond, I'll feel
Yeah.
like, I'll come into my own, I'll bloom, whatever. And then I got there and I was like, yeah, maybe I am, but it's for the wrong reasons because I'm different and I don't like that
Yeah.
feeling. And I use that opportunity. We were talking about this off air. I use that opportunity to teach and to educate and to help people understand. But at the end of the day, I was like, this isn't fun for me if I feel like I always have to be explaining or not even second guessing, but like explaining myself or like, making sure like I didn't like whatever. It didn't feel good. And I recognized I needed to come back to my roots. And once I came back, I was like, oh yeah, this is where I'm meant to be. Like every time I step back into Miami, like whether it's airplane or driving, and it's like, I know I'm home. Like, it's just like, I get this
Yeah.
sense of like, this is where I'm meant to be. And so I totally understand that you want to keep the values and, the story, the culture, like only you guys can understand that and you can tell that story, and other people can tell it, but no one can tell it better than you because it's your story too. And
Yeah.
I totally get that. And I think it's important to note that you're like, it's not that I wouldn't take other opportunities, especially women of color, because those are also stories of culture that other people can't tell, at least in the same way. But it would have to be a really unique opportunity for you because yeah, you want to be, especially with marketing. That's why the influencer world became so curated and not authentic, is that everyone was trying to do it, but it's like, what makes you different? Why are you telling the story, and why are you telling it better than that person? Why should we watch you over watching this person? And same with marketing. Why are you the one to tell the story better? Like there has to be like that connection. So I totally, like, I was just curious, but I think, I don't know, like starting my own company as well. Like I recognize that like the clients that I want to have, I don't like, it's not about their follower count, amount, how much money they're going to bring in. Of course, that's important to some extent because it's still a business and a business needs to make money. But I want to make sure that I align with the creator. I want to work with them. I want to talk to them. And like my clients, like me and Natalie, we have a group chat with our clients, like each one. And it's like,
Yeah.
we know when it's a business relationship, we know when it's a friendship relationship. Like we were like, yesterday we were going to do like a girls' wine night, like FaceTime. And we ended up not doing it. We're going to do it next week. But it's like, like so much is happening in each of our lives. Like, yeah, we're business people, like we all work together, but it's also like we're friends because we're all the same age. We're all going through the same experiences. We want to talk about it. And that's so important with, not just the values, but again, building that team and clients. And like, it's all about relationships. It's all about who you know. And so I think I think that's a cool way to look at it. Cause yeah, you're being intentional about it. And it's hard because then it comes across like it's exclusive, but you're picky and you have a right to be picky as the founder. This is your business. This is your name. This is your reputation. It makes sense.
Yeah. And I also feel like, I don't know, being in the startup space and being a founder can be lonely. Like if you don't find just like people who are there like a phone call away. Like I can say that about my publicist too. She has her own agency. We work together on the same clients, but it's like it's so nice to be able to just pick up the phone when like I've gotten off a sales call and like, or if there's like any sort of like, I don't know, if I'm like having an issue with a client or something, it's so nice to just pick up the phone and be like, hey, what do you think? Without it being, that like again, we were talking about this earlier, but that competition mentality of like, let me just tell you something so that you like lose the client or like whatever. Like it's so supportive, and it's important to find people like that because it's hard to quite frankly, because it can be very competitive, and especially I face that all the time with my niche. Like with other South Asians in marketing, there is a lot of times where all people are trying to do is tear you down or like steal your clients, and I face this very initially too, where again, have a relationship with my clients. So it's like there was a girl that like was starting her agency and was poaching literally my entire client roster. And I got calls from every single one of my clients being like, hey, do you know this girl? Because she's trying to poach us. And I was just like, is that really necessary? That's not the way you should be going about it. It's a little shady. So with things like that, like we have it all the time. Like I'm sure you've seen it with other influencers or just being in the podcast space, but it's important to find those people that like stick out from that and really do want to be there for you, because it can be lonely if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I've actually just recently experienced that. Well, I experienced it in law school. We were talking about Partner Track on Netflix earlier. Like, there's a scene towards the end. If you haven't watched it, I hope this doesn't spoil it for you. But they're the first year associate. They're at the big the dinner where they announce the partners at the end of the show, and the first year associate goes to Ingrid and is like, if they helped us, like the boys help each other, like it would be so much easier. Because there is an Asian American woman at the firm, but she's not doing anything to help the other two that come behind her. And Ingrid recognized, like, I don't want to be how this woman was to me to this girl, even though she's kind of annoying because she's an eager first year, like, which happens. And it sucks that people think that, but they do in real life and law school. But it's like, you know what? She might be kind of annoying, but like I'm gonna help her because I didn't have that when I came through, and maybe things would have been easier for me. So
Yeah.
it's hard, and but then there, on the other hand, there is that competition, and sadly, I see it more like women to other women, 100%, but women of color to other women of color.
Yeah.
Especially, and not even my own minority, like other minorities too. And it's sad. It's very sad because there's enough to go around for everyone. There's 7 billion people in the world. You don't need to go after the same exact people, but when they're threatened by you, they're gonna go after it because they're perceiving a threat. It's competition, and it sucks because, at least personally, I'm not competitive like that.
No.
And I don't want to run my business competitively.
Yeah.
I want to do it because you want to work with me. Again, why am I the best person to tell your story? Why am I the best person to help you? I want you and I to get along on that level, not because I can give you results. Like, to me, like, is ROI important? Absolutely. Again, it's a business. But to me, it's not about the numbers. And like, same with law. Like, I didn't want to be a lawyer just for the money or just for the title. Yeah, could I be at a big law firm making $150K right now plus? Yeah, but at what point do I get to enjoy the money that I'm making? At what point do I get to do what I want to do, what I'm passionate about, instead of having a stack of cases up to my eyebrows that I can't get through and I'm never going to get through. I'm never, it's just like, at what point do I get to do it for me? I went through all of this schooling for me. When do I get to, or at least I did it for me. Some people do it for
Yeah.
others. Some people do it because they're parents. Some people do it because they want the money or because it's expected of them or whatever. Like, but no, personally, like, I want to enjoy what I'm doing every day, because it's not true that if you love what you do, you won't work in a day in your life. I think you're going to work 10 times harder, but because you're passionate about it. But it's like, I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it. So.
I also, with that though, I also want to say that like, I love what I do 90% of the time. You do have bad days. Like, I think people love to glamorize like doing like
Entrepreneurship in general.
yeah, love to glamorize it, but like I'm not saying that I like it's not great or anything. I'm just saying that it's a really hard thing to do. It's not, the first couple years is not fun, quite honestly. Like it's you give up a lot of your like life and other aspects because you love what you do so much. Like I didn't have a social life for a while when I started both companies because I was just working. Now, was that, I know people love to talk about work life balance and all of that. In my head, it was like, yes, I'm working hard right now, but like a month from today, if I work hard right now, I'll be okay. And that's exactly what it was. It was like that was the time where I needed to put my head down and work. And then a month later, I had work life balance back. But like people, I think it's just the misconception of glamorizing it all. The journey is not that glamorous, but you have to love it to be in the journey.
100%.
And you have to have the work ethic. You cannot be here. You cannot be an entrepreneur without loving it. It's just not gonna like,
Yeah.
it's gonna burn you out.
Yeah, no, it's perception, because we make it look like it's so glamorous online, on TikTok, on Instagram, the reels, the routines, like all of that. And we do that because we want to encourage others who are like us to do it too. And we want to support you while in you doing it. But we all need to do a better job of showing the not so glamorous side, because that there is that 10-20% that isn't great. But, and I think it's so true what you said about there's a season for work and there's a season for rest, and you need to like, hustle now to know that in 2 weeks you can take that 2 days off and go to the beach with your friends, or go sell. And like a perfect example with the bar exam, like my professor, I remember he told the class above me, so 2.5 years ago when they were, or like 2 years ago, I don't know. At time is a weird concept to me, especially this summer. But he told the graduating class above me when they were graduating at like our end of clinic dinner, like, if you have a friend's wedding this summer, go to the wedding. Like, taking a night off to go to a wedding isn't going to kill you. That's not going to be the determining factor whether you pass or fail. So you're going to regret it later if you don't go. So just go. If you need time off, take time off. If you like don't like especially in the beginning, take 1 day of the weekend off. Take a few hours off.
Right.
Like, take breaks, rest, because it's a season of really hard work, but if you don't take time for yourself, you will burn out, and that's going to hurt you in the long run, and that's going to hurt your business in the long run. Talking about business, like, it's hard. There's seasons for everything, and you need to recognize when it's time to work hard and time to play hard, or time to rest. And I think there's no such thing as work-life balance. I think it's priorities and time management and listening to your body, and your body will tell you when it's time to take a break, and you actually have to listen to it, because if you don't, then it's just going to hard stop, and you're just going to give out. And that's not good for anybody. And I'm saying that from personal experience. Like, it was not fun when I burned out in law school, and it's really hard to come back from it. And when it's a whole business depends on you and you burn out, like, that's people's livelihoods on the line, and you don't want to have to say that you failed, because no one wants.
I think that's the biggest stressor too of having employees, is like everything relies on you, and it factors into the burnout process, is that you already know that, then you're slammed with work. I think what's been really good is once you set up systems that are in place, once you have employees, And once you've divided up, like, I think delegation also is very key. And once you've been able to do that, like, there needs to be a system of like, what happens when the boss is sick? Because like you're the first time I took a sick day, nobody knew what to do because I'd never done it before, right? Like, and it got to that point where it was like I was so sick that I literally couldn't work. I had been sick before, but I like got myself out of bed to just do it. But
Yeah.
it happened. Or like I went on a vacation like 3 weeks ago where I had zero cell service for a couple days. But in that sense, we have systems in place. My employees know how to deal with the clients, they know what to do. So it was really refreshing to come back to an inbox where it was like there weren't that many emails from clients or anything because everyone was just kind of like, oh, we got it handled. Your employee handled this. She handled that. We're good. And that was really relieving, but it took a really long time to get there. I'm not saying that we like instantaneously got there.
No, it's gonna
Um,
take time to build up those systems, and you're gonna have to sacrifice
yeah,
at the beginning. I mean, with everything, you're
yeah,
gonna have to sacrifice those vacations and those, going out with friends and all that at the beginning, but that's a season. It's not
yeah,
always. But once you start building up those, you start off with contractors first before you have employees, but you start building those systems in place, and it takes a special group of people to be that first
right.
to build those systems. And that's why hiring and firing is so important. And it is so difficult. But once you have those systems built and when you are ready to, take time off, that you have someone there to handle it. And, and also you have to trust the process because they're
Yeah,
not always going to get it right. But you need to make sure that you are right. You need to get yourself right first before you can put out for others. And that is the hard part about being the founder, being the entrepreneur, being the CEO. You're the one running the ship, but if the ship has a hole, like it's not going to go that great. So you need to make sure you're okay.
yeah, and with mistakes too, it's like with a small company, when you're the founder and you're involved day to day, it's like the client knows it's you. So at the end of the day, and I say this to my employees all the time, I'm like, mistakes happen. We're all human, but you need to learn how to take ownership of that and reassure the client that you can move forward. It's like when it happens, you can't just ignore the email and say that I'm going to deal with it because what
No.
happens there is that I will deal with it, but then if you're the account manager, the client doesn't trust you anymore because you couldn't take ownership for your mistake. You all you got to do is say, "I'm so sorry. I missed that. It won't happen again. We'll put this in place for it not to happen and everything's fine." But if you don't respond or you don't take ownership, then then they don't trust you anymore. And again, trust is a huge part of this business. And it's the only way to go forward.
Yeah, that's such an important note to like accountability and that's with everything. Relationships,
Yeah.
personal relationships like friends, partners, but in business. Like it's okay, you're human, mistakes happen, but you know what? Own it and try again tomorrow and try
Yeah.
better next time. Just don't make you made it once, don't make it again. But
Yeah.
but but fix it. And yeah, like you can't just put it off to other people because it's not going to end well for anybody. But talking about just like the challenges of running your own business, how do you tackle the feeling of feeling like you're never like there's always so much more you could be doing as the founder, as the one steering the ship? How do you recognize like I need to take that time for me, I need to rest, or I feel like I could like you saw someone be like, oh, I would love to represent that person, but like I just don't have the manpower. Like how do you tackle that?
I think with that is that I've gotten really good about like when I started this year, I said to myself I would say yes to opportunities. That got so like I'm not going to say that that was a bad thing. It was a good thing until it wasn't. Like
And
I
that's
started
usually how
saying
it goes.
yeah, I started saying yes to too many things and I had to learn to like say no certain places. For example, a big one of those is Fashion Week. I'm going to Chicago today for another event. I'm going to be in Chicago till Sunday. And my original plan was like, okay, I'll fly from Chicago to New York. And then I had a bunch of stuff go on at home, like stuff with my family, and then just like a bunch of work stuff. And I was just like, I already feel burnt out. If I do this and go from one place to the next and consistently have to be on, there's no way. Like, I can't do that. So it was learning to like kind of be okay with missing out. Like, I mean, in a way it is FOMO, but like there's always like the opportunity, some of these opportunities come back. Fashion Week's gonna come back in February. I can do it again. Um, it doesn't have to be like a do or die situation at this point. And if it is, then I need to prioritize which one's better. I can't be in two places at once. And I've like learned that and tried to stick with that. And it's been good. Like I don't feel as much anxiety or stress about having to be at two places at once.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like, yeah, Fashion Week happens twice a year every year. Like there will be other opportunities, and even if there wasn't, everything happens for a reason. I say that way too often, but like it's true. Like if it wasn't meant to be, and you can try again next time. And
Yeah.
there will always be a bigger and better opportunity. But yeah, you have to prioritize because the grass isn't always greener. Just because you had the opportunity to go to Fashion Week doesn't mean that you were gonna get, it was going to go well for your business. So if you have this other opportunity that there's going to be an ROI, go for that one. Instead of just
Yeah.
going to Fashion Week to say you're going to Fashion Week and putting yourself out there when you might not get anything and you're spending money and there's no ROI. So yeah,
Yeah.
prioritization, time management definitely are two of the big skills in addition to just, networking. I think that that's a great like takeaway from this episode. But with being a client forward company and both companies, wedding clothes is all about the client, all about the bride, what they want. It's their day, you facilitate that. And then also with marketing, how do you like identify what they want and what they need, and like how do you like, all right, like maybe you should go this route, I think this will be better for you, but balancing that with like they have a vision for their marketing or for their wedding dress or whatever it is. Like how do you navigate that with clients?
So I wasn't as good about this when I first started in both companies, but I've gotten better with this. It's the mindset shift of like they're coming to you because you are the expert. You have to like own that. At the same time, with my clothing company, I think what's different there is a lot of the people that are in that business are older and are like trying to just make the sale, is what the feedback that I've gotten from brides. I think what makes me different with that business is that I am pretty much in the age range of the brides that I'm getting. So I can relate to them in probably a different way than like someone who's twice my age can. Um, at the same time, I actually take the time to listen to what they want and not try to just sell them whatever I have on the rack, because I don't really have anything on the rack. It's a custom made to order piece. So I have to sit there, I have to listen, I have to go through their inspiration. And part of that is learning their story and like the dynamics behind their family, because a lot of the times there's also that piece of my mother-in-law doesn't want me to wear this color, but I want to wear this color, or so on and so
I'm
forth.
scared for that day for me.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of that. So it's finding a compromise, but also finding a compromise that works for the bride because it's her day and not anybody else's.
Yeah.
I've had to have pretty tough conversations with like moms, mother-in-laws, all of that, being like, this is what she wants, so I'm going to listen to her and not you. But that is how I treat it because it's what they want. Now, will I step in and say something's going to look bad? Absolutely. If I think a design's not going to work well, if I look at their like body type or like just the way a silhouette's going to cut, and they've told me, like, for example, if someone's like, I'm really conscious about this part of my body, and they've picked a silhouette that will emphasize that, then I will tell them, like, hey, just so you know, this silhouette is going to emphasize your arms. And if you're conscious about that, maybe we should try something else. If not, then go for it. So, like, I will issue like warnings, but ultimately, like, I'm not going to sit there and say, this is out of trend. You shouldn't do this, because I also think like trends when it comes to weddings are like ridiculous, because something's only in trend for like 3 months and they're going to be getting married probably out of that trend period. If they really like off shoulder, then who am I to tell them like, don't wear that? It's not trendy. So with that stuff, I'm pretty patient and I listen. It's the same way with marketing. I think there's more of a like with all the information going out about the algorithms changing all the time, there's more like of a conversation that happens because founders tend to freak out if they're not in the space when Instagram drops those reels saying, we're changing the algorithm, everyone freaks out. But it's important to like sit there and tell them, here's your numbers, here's what's been working for you, here's what your audience likes, this is how we're going to do this. And if it doesn't work, we'll change it and we're monitoring it, but don't worry because we've got it. I think the reassurance plays a huge part, and then actually telling them why we're doing something instead of just being like, here, let's throw money at this. Because then they know where they're at the end of the day, it's like they are small businesses too. The corporates care less because they have budgets, but small companies have every penny counts. So with them explaining why and how we're doing something is really important.
Yeah. No, that's so special and important to note too. And I think it's hard navigating that, which is why I wanted to ask. But I think you do a really good job. And like you said, it's what makes you different is that you're not afraid to be the expert and assert that you came to me for a reason. So let me help you in the best way I know how, but also still listening to them and their ideas because at the end of the day, it's their business, it's their wedding day. So I think that's really important. And, you know, you started these businesses kind of out of nowhere and they worked for you. Like, how has it been your family's response? I mean, of course, like we talked about that, like their network, they helped you with going to the factories and meeting the people in India, but how has it been like, now like with the support, encouragement, because you did work in a big finance job, you did have the American dream and then you went off and decided to pursue your own thing. And what has that been like, your relationship with your family, and are they really supportive of it?
Yeah, I would say my immediate family, like my parents, my brother, have been supportive from the very beginning. Sometimes they like with the social media world, they don't really know what I'm doing sometimes, which is okay. It's very different for them. But I think they've learned to like just adapt, watch, and like listen and like learn. My clothing company, I still operate with my parents. They help out. So that's always been like they've always been supportive there. But yeah, with the agency, it was new. They kind of just didn't know what I was getting into. They didn't know much about the space. And so they're constantly like asking questions, wanting to learn, not to like not be supportive, just to be like, I don't really know about this. Can you explain it? And then with my extended family, I would say the older generations are a little bit more skeptical, as they would be. Both sets of my grandparents live in India. So like it's just that they don't know enough about it. They don't know enough about lifestyle and stuff. And it took a while, I would say, for more of my extended family to actually not get on board, but actually uh, have an intelligent conversation with me about what I was doing, because they would just kind of be like, "Oh, you're just having fun," or "Oh, you're just doing this just to do this," or like. And after now, I'm at this point, I've been an entrepreneur for 5 years with one company, two for the other. It's been quite a while, so I think now they're, like, coming around to the fact that this is probably not gonna change unless it has to. But until then, I feel like I was getting annoyed because there would be people just kind of within my family friends. You always have those people that'll come and be like, "So what's next? What are you gonna do? What's gonna happen?" I think the most distinct one is I remember one of my family friends individually, without my parents being there, told me that, "You do realize that 75% of startups fail, and you have 2," and was waiting for me to respond, and I was just like. And then I came home and told my parents, and my parents were upset at this person. But like, I've had people say stuff like that, and I've had to like kind of, the first couple years were hard. Now it's not as hard because I'm just like, either they're just uneducated or they're just not willing to learn. And that's not my problem. Um, and so that's kind of how I tackle it. It was hard initially though, but you really, with entrepreneurship, you really learn who's in your corner and who isn't, like that. Like it's it's very quick.
Yeah, 100%. Not just entrepreneurship, when you're going off on your own path, untraditional, like, because I think because it's a mirror of people, like, they wish they would have done that, but they were too scared to, and they're jealous.
Yeah.
Or, like, some people are just gonna be hell bent on misunderstanding you, and if they don't understand you, they don't like you. But again, like you said, it's not your problem. And yeah, I faced all of those situations before too, and I think it's even harder coming from a minority background and a minority family, an immigrant family. But, you know, you have to be true to you, and you know this is the right path for you, and you have to be, you're the expert. You're the steer of the ship. Like, you need to be steadfast and like, this is what I'm gonna do. And if you're not on board, then that's fine. I still love you regardless, but like, move out of my way.
Yeah, and it's like you have that negative side of it, but I'm also like I'm gonna acknowledge that I have family friends that when I started the agency, like I run the marketing for their businesses. I have a couple of those that are my clients. They are in my family. They are family friends, but they're also my clients, and they treat me fairly. They treat me like I'm the expert. Like I have that too. So it's not to say that it won't be both ends of the spectrum, but they both are there. And it's like I think when you're just starting out, you remember more of those like pinpointy negative sides of it. But like there will be people that support you, there will be people that don't. You just kind of have to figure out how to balance it.
Yeah. And you have to just lean into the ones that do support you because again,
Yeah.
word of mouth is so important. And those are going to be the ones that, you want in your corner. And yeah, it definitely does teach you who your friends are really fast.
Really, really quickly.
But I mean, it's not a bad thing. First,
It's not. It's for the best, really. Like it helps you narrow your inner circle pretty quick.
yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of noise out there and it's hard to kind of tune out sometimes, but it does have its advantages. Speaking of the noise, like how has it been like building a community around both businesses, like with social media, with word of mouth? How do you create a supportive community around you, not just your family and friends, but the outside world as well?
So I think we've found the most success is again what you talk about, staying true to who we are. I think like one major example I can give is for our agency for the blog. Like I'm pretty vocal about saying like my employees, like I want you to write about what you're passionate about and if it's opinionated, that's fine. As long as we're like of course I edit and I like look at stuff, but I'm not trying to like hide people's opinions, or if it's different than what my opinion is, I'm not trying to not share that because I want it to be their voice. I want it to be true to them. And those are the pieces that quite frankly have resonated the best with our community. Some of the blog posts that my team puts out and like that they write about that really come from an issue that's stemming within their family or within their friend circle or something that they want to talk about within pop culture that like really struck them in some sort of way. We always get really good feedback on that, and we're always like reading messages from people being like, "Oh my god, I didn't see it in that light. Thank you for sharing." Or I really appreciated you putting this out there. I was thinking about the same thing. So I think keeping authentic voices has been key to kind of fostering a community that sees things in a different light and not just the mainstream.
Yeah, I think that's really important too. And I think it's so special when a leader recognizes that their team has value on their own too. And let me showcase it because it
Yeah.
makes you stronger. You are the sum of all your parts, and a team is no less. Like it's the same concept. So I think that's really cool that you allow them to be a part of it as well. It's not just like you work for me, like you have to do what I say, because some leaders are like that. And I think those aren't the ones that are, I mean, some people work well under that. They don't want to have to be the creatives behind it, but
Yeah.
it's cool when the leaders allow those who are to be a part of it. And I think it allows for just a more robust and fun environment, I think.
Well, and we're growing. Like, I want it to feel like we're growing the company together, like that it's not my sole responsibility to grow the company. Because if that's the case, then the passion kind of dies down when you trickle down the ladder. So how I've kind of structured that too is like every employee obviously has their like job stuff, but then they have an internal project that they're working on for growing the company. So I don't necessarily have one person dedicated to business development. Every single person has a task that's like their passion project that contributes to our business development. So whether that's one of my employees runs the blog, like she's the main point person on the blog, or one of them runs like the HR part and like creates all the team culture stuff. Like that's because they're passionate about those areas and they come with ideas, and it's like it makes it easier for me because I don't have to think about all of those, but then it's like I have someone that genuinely wants to do that handling that. So then it feels like we're all like building this house together instead of just me doing it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's more fun that way personally, like being on that side of it, the employee side of it, and we all get to have a say and like we get to bring ideas to the table and seeing which ideas are going to be run with first. It's like, oh, that's a good one, but like maybe down the pipeline, like we're not there yet, but like I'm glad you're thinking about it. Like let's keep that one. It makes it a lot more enjoyable. And it's hard work, but building a company and building a team, and when you're passionate about it, it should be fun. Like there's a reason why you started this. There's a reason why you saw this need to for you to be the one to tell your story. I think like it's fun. With telling a story, can you share where everyone can find you? And I will link it all in the show notes.
Yeah. My agency Instagram is at Kahani Digital, KAHANI dot digital. And then my clothing company is at ANIS dot collections one. Those kind of serve as the hubs. You can get to like our website and our other social platforms through the Instagram. So yeah, that's where you can find us.
Perfect. I'll link everything in the show notes. Thank you so much, Hani, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.